Bringing equality is not difficult until people stop thinking of themselves as superior. Have an amazing evening, everyone. I am Flor Lizzie Garcia, and tonight we're going to discuss an interesting topic. It's about ecofeminism. By the way, before we begin, let me introduce my group mates. So first, Maris Macapas, Jean Mariel Siquete, Viberlin Satinitigan, and Mary Grace Gutierrez. So these are the areas that will be covered in this discussion. Kindly read it silently on your screen. And here are our objectives for this lesson. And just read it silently, for these are the expected lesson that you will get at the end of our discussion. Alright, so thank you so much. So we have 4 terms here, and these are the common terms you will find for our topic. I won't go into further detail with these 4 terms because you will later understand them very well. Okay, so let's proceed to the next slide. Ecofeminism. Probably many of us here wala pa nakadong ani nga term, right? But anyway, let's break it down. So, ecofeminism. Based on my research, the prefix eco there comes from ecology, or the study of living organisms and their environment. Feminism, in most basic sense, relates to the advocacy for gender equality in women's rights. So now, what do these two ideas have to do with each other? Are they related? And ang sapod kahay goal aning ecofeminism. Alright, so let's find out. So ecofeminism, it is a social movement and philosophy that looks at the connections between nature and woman. So the nature and the woman are interconnected. Why? Because of their shared history of oppression, which caused by an uncaring patriarchal society. Because they believe that the causes of the environmental degradation and the oppression or the degradation of the status natong mga kababaihan or the injustices that is done to the woman kay parihong resulta sa pagdominate sa mga kalalakihan. Or in other words, the root cause sa katong ginamention ako ganina, katong sa degradation sa nature o sa oppression sa mga kababaihan kay parihong resulta or hinungdan ang itungod sa patriarchal system. Diba when we say patriarchal system, di ba mauna ang sistema in which ang mga kalalakihan have more power than women. Men have some level of privilege to which women are not entitled. Or kitang mga kababaihan have only, limited rights. We don't even have right nga to lead, to make decision, to plan, and so on. Kay lagi, kitang mga babae kuno, we are emotional, we are weak daw. That's why, dili ta karapat dapat because we don't have the characteristics same sa mga kalalakihan. So imagine that. Grabe kayong discrimination. And obviously, dili siya makatarungan. This is so much part natong mga kababaihan. That's why ecofeminism challenges the patriarchy as a belief system. Kay gi-challenge na kay grabe naman jud kayo, like dili na siya katanggap-tanggap ba. So they challenge the patriarchy system and replacing it with non-dominating beliefs, values, behaviors, and relations between humans and non-human nature. Ecofeminists contend that a logic of dominance connects all of oppression, including those based on class, race, sex, sexual orientation, ableism, and the environment. So the word ecofeminism was first used by Francois de Bioun in 1974. So according to her, the disenfranchisement and the oppression of women, people of color, and the poor are intrinsically linked to the degradation of the natural world as both arose as a result of the patriarchal dominance. So mao to kung giingon ganina nga tanang issue or problem sa both nature and the woman or the other human being kay parihong resulta sa patriarchal system or ang pagdumala sa mga kalalakihan. So now let's proceed to the next slide. The view of Karen Warren, her concept of logic domination. So, sa madaling logic of domination. So, this is the pattern of thinking characterized as follows. Two groups, for example, men and women, they are distinguished in terms of some characteristics. For example, men are rational and women are emotional. Men are objective and women are subjective. Men are competitive, strong, women are weak. And then, a value of hierarchy is attributed to this characteristic. For example, reason is superior to emotion. And the subordination of a one group is justified by its lack of these superior characteristics. For example, men ought to be in the positions of authority because they are more rational and less emotional than women. That is why, kung makabantay mo na mostly jud mga leaders before kay mga lalaki, take note, dili lang sa politika, kundi sa kuan pod sa business, and even at home. Kaya according to them ang God, kuan kana they cannot rely to the kuan daw to the woman because kay lagi ang mga woman dili rational, kay very emotional daw. That's why they don't kuan jud sa mga woman. So that's the meaning or the concept sa logical domination. Again, it is a pattern of thinking nga i-compare and then obviously na bias mahitabo against one's over the other. Main principles of ecofeminism. So, the main principles of ecofeminism is to avoid every kind of discrimination and domination. It emphasizes the importance of the interrelationship between humans, non-humans, and the earth. So, ecofeminism, they want to eradicate or wagtangon all the oppressive conceptual frameworks. They want to dismantle the structure of traditional Western ethics, katong male bias, katong, men dominance, and construct a new one that does not promote any discrimination and dominance against women, the nature, and other human being. So everybody or everyone must be treated equally in any aspect in the society or in our life. So that's the end of my part. I hope you learned something in my discussion.
Hello, good evening everyone. I am Maris Macapas, the second reporter for this group. So, na-discuss naman clearly ni first reporter kung unsang ecofeminism. So, nasad ko'y gamayng i-add on about ecofeminism before I go to my topic that I'm going to discuss to you guys tonight. So, my topic really is the understanding of the feminist perspectives on ecofeminism. So, ecofeminism gihapon, no? Di siya mulayo. Char. So, one might be liberal ecofeminist, cultural ecofeminist, socialist ecofeminist, and the radical ecofeminist. So, I will be discussing that later on, but for now, I'm going to share with you my ideas and explanations on what is ecofeminism. So, ecofeminism examines between woman and nature. They claim that patriarchal society viewed nature and woman alike. So, unsa man jud ang gipaglaban, sana o gipaglaban, or gifight aning ecofeminism. So, what are they trying to do? Ecofeminism question the effect of gender categories. What does it mean? Patriarchal society viewed masculine or men as objective, rational, so darapan reason, while feminine or sa babay kay subjective, personal, emotional. So we're being equated sa nature, like Mother Nature, kay natural daw sa babae na muhatag og care. Sana all. I mean, like women are nurturer. So in the history, women were expected to play their traditional role in the household. Like, they expected to be passive, gentle, and caring, and often They're often valued for how they looked and not for what they did, di ba? So I have read this article online that, di ba, women are being equated with the environment, like we are the kanang nurturer. So why not daw na ang woman is tagaan og equal access to lead, the tagaan og power to lead for the betterness of the environment. So kung sana sa mga gi-question ni ecofeminism, yeah, naabot ang katuang mga um, perspective, feminist perspective on ecofeminism. So now, Merchant 2005 talks about the four ecofeminism strands. She claims that the various schools of ecofeminism, such as the liberal, cultural, socialist, and the radical, attempt to comprehend the root causes and consequences of women's sexism as well as how it is related to the environment. She also writes that there are important connections between the domination of women and the domination of nature. So, in understanding the feminist on ecofeminism, it is further provides insight on how to enhance both the status of women in our society and our relationship with the nature. So each has made a unique contribution to the ecofeminist viewpoint in order to achieve this. But these various viewpoints reveal various conceptions of nature and woman, and as well as various approaches like that. And now let's talk about the four ecofeminism strands that according to Merchant 2005. So first, we have the liberal ecofeminism. So it is the woman's secondary status in society is based on unequal opportunities and segregation from men. So, liberal ecofeminists contend that if given the chance, women can also improve the environment, preserve the natural world, and improve their quality of life. Women should therefore be given equal educational opportunities to pursue careers as scientists, managers of natural resources, regulators, attorneys, and lawmakers. They will have many options to enhance their quality of life and address environmental issues as a result. The second is the cultural ecofeminism. So it questions that what are the different cultural understandings of nature and women? Are there similarities in the way that women and nature are categorized or reproduced or oppressed or understood? According to cultural ecofeminists, human biology is a part of human nature. Humans are both socially and sociologically gendered. Men and women are supported differently in terms of power by this sex and gender equation. The same rule that limits women might therefore become a source of empowerment for them if the perception of the relationship between women and biological reproduction is changed. In this way, the biology and nature of women might be understood as a source of their strength. Yeah. And now we have the radical ecofeminism. So, radical ecofeminists criticize patriarchal society for demeaning and exploiting women by comparing them with nature. So, this kanang comparison between the woman and the nature that is according to the men. So, this is the causes of women's oppression. So, these presumptions daw must be dismantled or dapat nang walaon kay we are aiming for the equality man. So maybe now it's time for change. Like empowered naman ang kuan karon woman, like strong, independent, empowered woman. And lastly, we have the socialist ecofeminism. So maybe it is stated there that ecological problems are connected to capitalism, patriarchy, and imperialism. But so before, women were expected to plant and harvest crops, dun maganda mong pagkaon, kanang alaga sila ang mga bata. Now, they can have these jobs that are mostly ginabuhat sa mga lalaki. So, women are being empowered as the years goes by. That's all for my part, and thank you.
Here's the example of cultural ecofeminism. First is an ecological ethics based on care. So, an ethics of care does not rely mainly on principles and rules, but emphasize an ethics that is important to context or the appropriate behavior and actions associated with situations. So, it emphasizes ang importance ng responsibility, concern, o ganang relationship over sa rules. So, an ethics of care begins with a moral universe in which cooperation replaces conflict. So, kung patriarchal ang culture, so dominant ang male and male are competitive then kanang the tendency is kanang naay conflict or naay violence kay they assert power over another gani. And the ethics of care emphasize cooperation, mutual support, mutual care, mutual responsibility, and that kanang relationship replace confrontation kay of course kung male dominated rational objectives, so muhimo yun nag judgment, so confrontational siya kay kumuha na ang usa ka side nga sakto siya, then isa ka side kay mo-oppose gani sa iyang kanang statements, so there will be a possibility nga kanang mag-argue sila. So kanang it's not the case sa ethics of care, since ethics of care emphasize caring for the others. So kung nindot ang relationship sa usag-usa, then walay conflict o confrontation nga mahitabo. So it is a moral universe in which mothering and friendship rather than abstract principles such as kanang individual autonomy or mag-decide for oneself and freedom. And the values extolled by the feminism serve as moral ideals. So, mother-child relationship kay mas importante ang care, ang understanding, ang being sensitive to the needs of others, so responsive to the needs of others. So mao kuno ni ang advantage sa ethics of care because kanang it is grounded in experience. It is contextual, kanang relate sa evolving world. Situational siya, dili abstract because kanang it is kanang gamit gani on how we deal with kanang other people. The question is kanang how might an ethics of care be relevant to environmental issues. Sa kanang environmental ethics kay naay debate, so nagyapon tayo responsibility for people in the future generation. So nahimo ni siyang kanang debate tungod kay naay uban mo argue nga nga mag-iskot man kag inana nga kani mga tawo sa future generation kay kanang wala pa man ni na tawo. So moingon ang uban nga kanang mag-focus sa needs of the people in the present or current generation. So kanang ang present maoy kanang priority, and that's why dili ta ngay mabalaka sa people in the future generation kay kung maabot ang time they will take care of kanang themselves gani. So pero sa kanang ethics of care kana siya debate is dili kayo siya issue because kanang an ethics of care can shift our focus away from such abstract questions and start from the simple reality that many people do in fact care about what happened to people in the future. In reality, murag part na ni nato sa tuang disposition sa tuang way of life. So kanang concern gid ta sa uban, especially sa people in the future. So mao ni ang advantage sa ethics of care. A view consistent with an ethics of care is Leopold's injunction that we must first come to love, respect, and admire the land. So, kanang loving, respect, and admire the land comes first before applying the most abstract principles of the land ethics. So, unsa man ni ang principle of kanang the land ethics? So, mao ning giingon ni Leopold that land is a community is the basic concept of ecology, but that land is to be loved and respect is kanang extension of ethics. So a thing is right when it tends to preserve the integrity, stability, and beauty of kanang biotic community. So it is wrong when it tends it is wrong when it tends otherwise. So ang principle mga good kay dili kayo siya gamit kung wala ta aning natural nga disposition to kanang love, respect, and mag-care sa uban, not just kanang human beings but also kanang animals and physical environment. Next one is kanang women's spirituality movement. So we see God as kanang superior, separate from nature. So this is the classical understanding of God. So nature is mere matter, God is spiritual, while kanang nature is material. And being material, it is passive, inert, shapeless, and dead. So God created, formed, and breathed life into dust. So in much of this kanang tradition, women again are associated with nature because they are so dependent on their bodies and are so passive. So thus, organized religion often sees women as lacking the special spirituality that would qualify them to be priests, rabbis, ministers, popes, and so forth. So, because priests, rabbis, ministers, popes, and so forth, another religious leaders has kanang supposed to be a rational intelligence since kanang women are emotional, then they are kanang excluded from this kanang class of leaders in religion. Thus kanang within much of this mainstream kanang nakawitness ta sa dual denigration of kanang women and nature, but nausal siya kay naa na may mga feminist thinkers of religion. So like sa kanang feminist theology in which kanang their goal include kanang increasing the role of women among clergy and religious authorities. So ilasang gipa reinterpret ang patriarchal or kanang male-dominated imagery and language about kanang God. Also determining women's place in relation to career and motherhood. And also studying images of women in the religion, sacred text, and matriarchal religions. So kaning matriarchal kanang religions kay ga-focus sa mga goddess or goddesses.
So, hi, I am Viverline M. Satinitigan, and I'll be the one to continue the report about the recent development of ecofeminism. So, to start, many feminists are reluctant to accept the strategy of those who embrace the view that distinctive and separate women's ways of understanding, experiencing, and valuing the world do exist. So, here, like mahadlok bitaw sila nga by accepting the kanang dualism implicit, like in viewing women as closer to nature than men, like ilang ba lang tao kay this feminist only nag-reinforce the way of thinking that underlies hierarchies and the logic of domination. So in place of cultural ecofeminism with its roots in radical feminism, Plumwood and Warren seek for a third wave feminism that is integrative and transformative feminism. So, nagseek si kanang Plumwood and Warren as an integrative and transformative feminism, or it moves us beyond the current debate ever the four leading version of feminism and makes us responsible ecological perspective central to feminist theory and the practice. So next, since nag-seek man sila for a third wave feminism. So ato sa ilaylahon what is the first wave feminism. So the first wave feminism is typified by liberal feminism, seeks to end discrimination and attained equality for women. So the ecological implication of this first can be devastating. So women can liberate themselves from an oppressive identification with nature only if they, like men, became oppressor of nature. So wait, balik. So here in the first wave feminism, the problem of this kanang view is that in a culture in which masculine traits and also the characteristics dominate equality, like equality for women can amount to little more than requiring women to adopt this dominant male trait. So effect bitaw, like the effect of this one kay women can be equal to men only if kanang ang mga woman become masculine. Again, ang effect ani niya, woman can be equal to men only if ang mga babae kay become masculine sila. So pag dili ikaw sa ka babae, yes, a woman nga dili masculine kay walay equality para sa imuha. So walay equality para sa ila pag dili ka masculine. So di ba unsa ka kuan? So next we have the second wave of feminism. So the second wave of feminism is represented by kanang uncritical reversal of some feminist cultural feminism. This perspective promotes and celebrates a distinctive female point of view. So like sa second wave, so ang perspective nila ni kay the perspective is risk being taken over the dominant male culture through accepting na sila og dualism that male culture has used. So mao na siya sa second wave. So proceed ta sa ginasik nila ni Plumpwood ug ni Warren, which is the third wave feminism. So in third wave feminism, nasi sees the domination of nature and the domination of woman as inextricably connected. So connected siya. So they are connected in more ways than simply being two types of a more general patterns of domination. So sa third wave feminism, women had been identified as closer to nature. So sa third wave nga ginasignal ni Warren ug ni Plumpwood, nakita na nila na-identified na nila nga ang woman, I mean, yes, the woman closer to nature, and then nature ang also kanang ang nature di ay um na-identified na siya as feminine. Mao na siya sa third wave feminism. So, in the third, di ba, gisig nila tong third wave feminism. So in third wave feminism, Plumpwood and Warren suggest that at the most general level, both feminism and ecological movement need to address a cluster of dualism and dualistic ways of thinking that underlies the logic of domination. So kanang here, we should challenge those kanang mga distinction that are designed to reinforce like mga inferior, oppressor, framework. So kanang this type of feminism di ay kay challenges feminist and environmentalist alike to uncover the patterns of domination common to the oppression of women and of nature. Also to begin exploring alternatives and non-dualistic ways of thinking about human and non-human nature. So some of these dualistic ways of thinking are especially relevant to ecofeminism, involve the split between masculine and feminine, human and nature, reason and emotion, mind and body, and objectivity and subjectivity. So each dualism DI is typically used within one culture and context that supports domination like masculine over feminine, human over nature, reason over emotion, mind over body, and objectivity over subjectivity. So the goal of this is kanang to weed out dualism and develop like mga alternative patterns of thinking. So I guess my part ends here and Mary Grace will continue. Thank you.
So, science is considered to be the part of the dominant. At least, giconsider siya as karapitang nasa trait nga na-process gikan sa men. He is considered to be masculine, rational, and kanang objective. So, here, in this case, science is considered to be superior to nature, which shows how both women and nature are being oppressed. So, sa Evelyn Fox Keller, so siya ka feminist scientist. So she is the one who quotes the early scientist Francis Bacon. According to Francis Bacon ng good, that here, as you can see in the description, di ba, nga science can seek to establish a lawful marriage between mind and nature. So in this case, clear kaayo ang concept ni Francis Bacon nga he considered woman as in nature and the mind as the man, in which di ba he see nature as a woman who will be kanang married to a man, and the man are going to dominate and take control sa woman, and later on make her his slaves. So just like that pa. But see, Francis Bacon, he doesn't just associate nature sa woman and sa marriage, but also iya bitaw kanang associate sa karelasyon nga naa bitaw kind of superior and a kind of abusive type of marriage. Sometimes the men are considered to be the primary perpetrators sa mga women, just like sa mind and nature. So ma-apply po nato ani ang concept ani nga marriage so between men and women. So though kanang wa ta tanan sa resources in the nature, but kanang there are instances manggod that science kinalab-anan na pud siya and dili na pud ethical iyang gibuhat, and this is considered to be abuse na pud. Wala na moderation nga nahitabo. So, scientific theories, as what you have seen here, di ba? As you read this description. So, ang kanang ability nga gisgutan diha, all too often, this is simply the first step nga gamiton in developing a technology to control the natural phenomena, and later on to conquer and subdue her or overpower her, and then to make her their slave. So talagsara di ba kaayo nga science and technology consider nature as valuable and not just an instrument to be manipulated. Kay every time we tackle about this, there are certain kanang situation bitaw nga there's always a hidden interest involved. More than ang gibuhat na is so much na nga more than what is normally required. So ang question is, how can we humans use nature for our own interest? So how can we, di ba? So according to Green Christians, so they point out that biblical emphasis on stewardship and not ownership, because practically speaking, we don't own this world, di ba? And we're just the one nga mo-supervise, dapat mo took care of it and not to destroy it for our own interest. So yes, we can use everything atong makita diri sa ato ang nature, but with moderation kana po the next generation di ba nga mosunod nato. So in ana lang good, we should be responsible. We should use what is normally nga ato ang pwede gamiton. So feeling for the organism, the life and work of Barbara McClintock. So here Keller describes this kind of approach diri, di ba? That is often called and then it is dismissed siya as a woman's way of thinking. Si Keller, she argues nga ignore si McClintock when she first presented sa iyang results tungod sa iyang gender as a woman. Si Keller, it doesn't suggest nga ang mainstream science kuno i-abandon, but she insisted that science done from dominant control and dominant perspective alone will miss much that is important. Si magud si McClintock, usan siya ka bright nga babae. Yeah. He excelled at a time when there were very few women to science. So she experienced lots of discrimination throughout her studies, and hangtod nga nagtrabaho na lang siya. Kani mangkod si McClintock, dili ka siya fond of authority figures. And perhaps mo sa diong sa karason, nga nung naka-experience siya lots of discrimination, nga iya rasang gi-endure throughout her studies from her superiors. So she couldn't understand nga nganong women and men couldn't have better relationship. Pwede man unta sila magkasinabo. Lalaki ka, kana imong buhat sakto kay na, pero kung babae ka, dili ka tan-awon in that kind of kanang lens. So women can also be a source of knowledge, can also be a source of various knowledge and ideas, just like McClintock, di ba? So when we only see the dominance perspective alone, so we'll mamiss gina to ang daghan kaayo nga mga important details, mga significant knowledge nga kung atong gitan-aw, atong acknowledge is daghan sad siyang mabuhat nga mas nindot. Ana lang ba? Kaya we should consider hearing different sides in which i-disregard nato kung babae ba nagikan o sa lalaki ba nagikan. So in equality. na kanang i-consider sila ba, first, dapat tanawon nga both of them are a person, both human beings, and dapat dili jud i-first mag-matter sa gender. But instead, i-consider sa nature, di ba? One simply needs to look at instances when a science intent at dominance and control shows little regard for nature. So second direction for further environmental thinking, it encourages this following thinking. First, we have the contextualist. So it avoid abstract and universal ethical pronouncements. So here, kana bitang kasagaran, di ba, in the process of abstracting and extracting to the universal, has simply taken the characteristics of the dominant group and then making it into an ethical and philosophical ideals. Na kung na bitaw siya gihimong basis na dayon ang characteristics of the dominant group, nga mo na siyang what is morally right and morally wrong. So we've already seen this, di ba, how it leads to oppression sa women, sa nature, and sa animals. So why not consider, di ba, both men and women, both the factors, di ba, in establishing what is ethical. And kana bitaw wala bitaw bias, nga both bitaw kay makater na equality. Kay kasagara kung men na ganing mo istorya, mas tuhan na dayon siya. Ang mga words nga mugawa siya maabang kay is-consider na dayon siya sa mga tao as more valuable, as more believable, and reliable compared sa istorya sa mga women. So, it's not important nga kung what has been said should be carried on. No, it has to be changed if it creates inequality na sa nature, sa both sa gender and even sa certain group of people. Next, we have the pluralistic and inclusive thinking. So, kanabitang key aspects siguro sa usa ka kanabitang dominating ideology is the belief nga only one is right of being, right way of thinking, right way of acting. So here, kanang pluralistic, it avoids hierarchies and domination, and it celebrates diversity. So this is tolerant of all social views. So katong mga marginalized and fluid identities are being normalized and socially accepted. So here, inclusive siya because it prevents any single group from dominating and wala ipita exclusion nga nahitabo. And it permits the peaceful coexistence of the different interests, ilang mga lifestyles, ilang convictions, and wala na ning concept nga only one is right. Because, di ba, klaro kaayo nga kung naani nga concept is no, kita dyan na ito nga na dominating, na nag-dominate sa uban. So, in holistic kind of thinking, it is about kind of looking beyond kung unsang makita sa mga mata bitaw, to us and to understand how human beings is essentially part of the human and natural communities. Nga, kind of thinking about the world, considering that every parts as being inseparable from the whole. Na dili bitaw siya nag-exist lang as kanang independent. So humans, diba, as we all know, we cannot carry out social or productive activities in separation from the environment kung asa ta na-exist. So human minds is, kung makaingon ta, diba, human minds has the ability to make best use of the natural resources that we have through the use of science and technology. But dili na pumabot sa point bitaw nga i-consume na lang siya as if there is unlimited supply of resources. So inatan ba, we should think of the factors kung kani ba makaapekto ba ni sa kaning usa, kung okay ra ba ni siya buhaton, na dili bitaw too much na dili na kapitoy moderation sa paggamit sa ato ang natural resources. Just remember nga, walay superior. So mind is not superior to nature, and also men are not superior to women.
Reflection. Women are being compared to nature because both are identified with humanity. Social injustices, the oppression, discrimination, and subordination of women, and the degradation and exploitation of the environment are interrelated, both stemming from the patriarchal and capitalist system that values profit and power over people and nature. In patriarchal society, women are frequently underrepresented in important institutions, positions of decision-making, and employment. If women attempt to regain some power, they are frequently ignored or criticized. They see women are playthings who cannot possibly contribute in more ways than just doing the dishes and bearing their children. We, women, or everyone, do not deserve such inequalities, abuses, and injustices. Thus, we believe that ecofeminism is one of the great frameworks for addressing such a problem, since ecofeminism is concerned with eliminating all forms of domination and fighting for equality. It seeks to eradicate all oppressive conceptual frameworks, all dominance such as that of men, and to fight for women's rights in all spheres of society as well as to protect our nature.